All right, so it's time we get this final done, which is this final appears to be more or less a semester in review type deal. So let's get to it. So first off, I want to talk about keeping your topic selection appropriately narrow. Now, I personally find that to be something that's kind of difficult, especially if it's something you're passionate about, like amateur radio. That for me was that speech I gave on it. That was particularly hard to keep focused on something specific. Mainly just because it's really an umbrella term for a hobby. If anything, it's got these niche communities within it that are pretty vast and expansive in their own right. Whereas with something like my speech on rucking, that was pretty simple. It's simple. It's a simple concept. It's simple what it is in nature. It's just walking or running around with a weighted backpack. Simple stuff. Now, contrary to that, communicating the specific purpose of a speech, that's easy. I literally every time I did it, I would just I said it. The purpose of the speech is so and so. It's easy as that. That's how I did it. The purpose of this speech. This is my final, I guess. Not really a speech, but it's a semester in review. So on supporting material, that that it could be a bit of a struggle at times. It definitely could, but I personally feel as if that's something that's improved for me over time. Like when I found the study on, jeez, I'm having a hard time remembering it. It was about like lumbar support, how rucking with particularly heavy bags affected your lower back, stuff like that. I feel like I've gotten better in that regard at the very least, so that's nice. Now, keeping your speeches appropriately organized to the topic, that's also relatively simple, at least in my mind. I would every time I did it, I just did it in basically I'd talk about things in order of importance or an inverse order of importance, where it's like I'd start off with something that's not that important, and I'd get to more and more significant. I'd build up, save the best for last type deal. Or I'd start off with the most important on top and work my way down. That's how I personally organize it. It's pretty easy for me. Now, using appropriate language is it's pretty simple. Don't curse and swear. No screaming at the top of your lungs. No, nothing nasty. But it's also explaining certain jargon terms. Like hold on. If I came up to you and I was like, this is a UHF only radio and this is a VHF only radio, you'd probably be pretty confused until I simply just tell you that UHF stands for ultra high frequency or VHF stands for very high frequency. It's as simple as defining the terms you're using, and then once people get that, it's pretty easy for them to understand. Similarly to appropriate language, keeping your variety, your vocal variety, pitch, volume, that's also pretty simple. It's I know I'm using a lot of vocalic fillers, but that's all right, I guess. It's instead of being like this is a UHF radio and this is a VHF radio. It's this is a UHF radio and it does so and so. This is a VHF radio. That means very high frequency. Stuff like that. I've never had an issue with that. At least not as I feel. Now, properly pronouncing the words, that's obviously important. If you're going to be researching anything, you should at least get the proper pronunciation of a certain phrase. You should get that down. Some people are going to struggle with it, especially if you're using like terminology that's like a loan word borrowed from another language, like a zeitgeist. That's a German word. A lot of English speakers might struggle with that. Grammar, that one's pretty simple. It's Grammarly when you're writing your speech on your computer. It'll make sure you're using the correct punctuation. Now, last but not least, gesticulation is king. You've probably been watching this. I'm throwing my hands all around. I like it. It feels nice. It helps me focus on talking, moving my arms around. It keeps me from sitting still and just, hi guys. It keeps me from doing that. It keeps me from being far too inactive and disassociating with whatever I'm talking about. So, yeah, that's generally about everything. Thank you for your time. It's been a nice semester. Enjoy the summer. Have a good one.